Hi, welcome to November. This is November 1st. This is the Creative You Knitting and Crocheting Podcast, and sometimes some other crafts thrown in. Thank you for everybody. Seems like everybody's busy, and so for you to share my husband's home and Marcus, our diabetic blind dog, will just go off barking at him, and yet he adores my husband. Or it could be the mailman or somebody walking their dog, but I shut the door to the back porch. That might be part of his problem. But I'm here from Pennsylvania on this beautiful November day. I had been waiting for a nice day because we had so many rainy days, storms. In fact, some areas flooded. And I saw in Annapolis, Maryland, they had loads of flooding. It was just horrible. So we get a sunny day, and I thought it's a great time to do a podcast. And I am surrounded by good things to show you. So here I go. I am not your normal organized podcaster who shows you what I made, show you what I'm going to make, and show you what I bought, because I own a yarn store, so it's all mine, including the bills. I don't like to have that burden on me that, I have to finish this, I have to stay out. So I just kind of go with the flavor of the day. I'm a Christian. I think that doing projects brings glory to God, all the colors and things that He's given us. But the last podcast, I did show a pumpkin in the works, maybe a gourd in the works, whatever, because you pretty much start out like a crocheted hat. And I had a yarn called Aylor Toowomba. Sounds crazy, like Lawanda. And I was doing that every other row. And I mentioned that it was just a space striping yarn that just seemed hard to figure out what to do with it. And at one point I had found a pattern for a 2-color hat, and it worked out good. I'm trying to think of the name of it. And when I posted it on Ravelry, the other woman said, I have had this yarn for several years and I just couldn't find the right project to make with it, and this was it. So I thought, yep, we're thinking the same thoughts. To kind of offset it, I did every other row with a Pennsylvania yarn company made in the USA. It's a cotton tweed yarn that's very inexpensive, and so I did that every other row. One of the things that crocheters like about knitting stuffies is that you can also just stuff your ends. You don't have to work every end in. And I am like horrified when I watch some Crochet Along With Me. I don't know if you'd call them podcasts or just Crochet Along With Me. And they start their first slip stitch and they leave about that much yarn. I'm like, what about the end that you work in? This morning, I was going to put on a knitted infinity scarf that I made probably 8 years ago. That's been hanging in my closet. And when I picked it up, I noticed strands like you had dropped stitches, but it wasn't supposed to be that way. It was one of those projects where you went to the yarn shop and they said, oh, you can make that with one skein, and you got pulled into it. Now, having said that, it took me a long time to make it, and here it was unraveling. Even as I picked it up, it started to unravel. So somewhere I either dropped a stitch, didn't work in an end, so I left it because I woke up, the sun was shining, I was happy. And I thought, I will leave that for later. So having said that, I, at the last podcast, said that this should be finished by the next podcast. But I wanted to kind of keep you in on it. So I just gathered around the edges. I could have also whip stitched it just around to put in a stem. I stuffed my ends in, making sure that they were tight. But then the creative part of me kind of took off. I went to a big box store to get stuffing. And because I own a yarn shop, I don't go to stores like that very often. And my husband dropped me off. He was going to the grocery outlet next door. And I thought I would just be in and out. But you know, husbands, they know when a woman says that, I'll be in and out, that, you better read into those words. How much time will pass between in and out? It's not just like a loop. So I went in, and of course they sell novelty items too. And the novelty part of it seems to have gotten bigger. Candles, skulls with flowers on them, ceramics, things like that. And I picked up a candle. I don't burn candles because it seems like almost every podcaster is burning candles. The ambience of it, the light, maybe the fragrance, 3 wicks, cozy. I mean, if you had to hashtag candle, but I used to burn candles all the time. And then I found out that they are toxic. And my husband has really bad lung disease from Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam. And when I look back, all the years that I burned candles were the years that he was always sick. And even expensive candles, you'll notice they burn black, your ceiling can get black. And so you're supposed to go to soy candles, but the candle just attracted me. It was a slim, round candle, but tall. I have allergies, so if you think I'm crying, it's just allergies. A taper, well, I don't know, is it a taper? But it reminded me of yarn that's just gently marled, variegated, tonals blended, I don't know. I picked it up, about 6 inches tall, and on the bottom, 70% off. So ding, 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 that makes your heart. But they were saying that the candle was $19.99, but it's 70% off. Now, I sat it right back down. If the candle had been $6.99, and I love to buy candles, I would have picked it up. But to get pulled into that, this is a $20 candle? You know, that didn't work for the Bon-Ton. Our Bon-Ton store used to do that. And it got so bad, they would actually get those packs of yard sale stickers that said $20 and stick them on, say, 20 piece of like Pyrex type. $50. No, come on. But you're getting 50% off. And in today's world of type it into the smartphone and see that this usually only sells for $20 and you're going to pay $25, they went out of business. It didn't work for AC Moore. It's not going to work for this big box store. But then, of course, I traveled past the scrapbooking aisle, past the kitty section to the yarn section. And I know that they used to carry a lot of Lion Brand yarns. And what I saw, though, was the majority, I'm putting a new word, the majority of super bulky polyester yarns like Burnett Blanket. Well, I kept seeing them everywhere and seeing them in basins on clearance and funky colors, but the meat of the store, the majority, which should have been things like Lion Brand, wool blends, you didn't see much. And maybe it's a problem getting the yarn. I don't know, but I was really dismayed to think this is what people have to choose from, and the prices are going up, up, up. So I got my stuffing. So here we are 10 minutes into the podcast. And I'm thinking of all the things that this thing could be instead of a pumpkin. I can put my stem there, but as I went to stuff it, I'm thinking it could be a gourd. So I could stuff the top. I was also thinking it could be a cute little, like a cute, that's the dog trying to get in. Almost like tie it off in just a cute little bag, and you could put some kind of motif on it and just put a I-cord drawstring. Just a cute thing to put in with your pumpkins. I'm thinking of all these things. These projects can take a lot more stuffing than what you think. I could stuff it just as a round pocket and just keep stuffing and stuffing. Or, like I said, I could do a gourd and do it plumper at the bottom and then smaller. I could probably even make like a gooseneck, although I'd have to figure that out. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff it and show it to you next week. And I have had people coming in and seeing the pumpkins I've made and wanting to make one of them. October, which is now bye-bye, was Shawl Month at the Creative You Yarn Shop, and there were prizes and people jumped in. I am trying not to use the word SO because in previous podcasts, if I gave you $1 for every time I said so, I would be broke. In the last podcast, I looked like I just rolled out of bed. So there you go. And then the problem is when I tried not to say that word, I was substituting another word that I kept saying. I showed you this the last podcast, but it wasn't blocked. I mentioned that it came out of a grab bag that cost me a little bit of nothing. And this wasn't the only thing in the grab bag. This was a joy and a pleasure to block this. And it is so lightweight. Today you see people doing these big shawl scarves. They wrap them all around and they look like, I don't know, they look like, I don't know, what is the word you used out there? Stuffed all around, and here's their head peeping out of the top. And unless you're out in a snowstorm, you don't need all of those layers. But this is beautiful. It is lightweight, and I can't wait to wear it and wrap it. I don't know the pattern name. You could double it. But even if you tripled it, it is so lightweight. And that's what they mean by drapey. The Cairns, Cairns, which is Australian. I've done lots of these scarves, shawls, but usually you do it on a very thick needle, like a 19 or a 17. This time I came down to a 15. So it's going to be wider, and I don't have more of these to compare. And also it's not going to be as long because you're using a smaller needle. And this is just one skein. It is a nice, just to pull it around and tie it, drape it, whatever. Use a little, oh, I wish I had them. My friend Mary got me these little leather things that hold it, but it's cotton, so you don't get hot and sweaty. This is a little crocheted where you take fancy yarns, sparkly yarns, and just crochet a chain and then crochet them together. And it's really a good use. You always get compliments on them. You can make one longer, one medium. You can crochet them in different lengths. And I have a whole pile of them that I made. They used to be a really hot seller, not at my shop, but at like a shop that sold all kinds of things, but not yarn. And one of my dear customers in her old age would make these. And I think I'm going to let Marcus in, or he's just continued to ruin our door. Come on, Marcus, come on. Who would have thought that Marcus, come here, that Marcus would be my cuddle bug? Come here, babe, come show yourself. He's getting heavier because of his insulin. Insulin makes creatures, fat. And who would have thought that he would be my cuddle bug and my love bug, but he's a sweet boy. He's also a good watchdog. And okay, he says, I'm done. No more showing off of me. They're kind of like children. Yep, I don't want to be shown off. So that is a free pattern called Glorious. And it's just garter stitch. Oh, I don't normally hear that sound out of you. Another shawl, which I didn't get much done on. I think at some point this was a pattern because there is a pattern. You can't really see it because of the yarn, but there's a little pattern that goes across. But this is fun. This is Queensland Uluru with a yarn called Boro. I think Bora, which again is a novelty yarn. Novelty yarns really shine and do great work when, for a bright day. It's kind of dark in here, and I apologize. It's all kind of colors and little tags. Maybe it will help if I turn the light on. We'll see. He just doesn't understand being shut out and everything. This also is a little pumpkin that I just need to stuff. That again was the Toowomba. Do you ever wonder how people that work at a yarn company, do they sit around a big conference table and come up with the names for the yarns? Because some of the yarns have names that do not at all go along with the yarn. At the shop, we were looking at one the other day that is black, gray, and ivory, and it was called raspberry truffle something. But yeah, so I have to do is stuff him. He's going to be cute. I'll show them to the next podcast and put his stem in. And who knows, maybe some little faces. And I wish I had all the ones to show that the customers were making. This is another Huenique yarn called Huenique, but it's H-U-E, Huenique. We were also talking at the yarn shop about the phases that colorways, they call them colorways. This is actually a gray purple with a gold and orangey color. And hold on, I'm going to let Marcus out, so hold that thought. Okay, sweets, let's go out. I'm back. I was saying to my husband this morning that the color of his fur would just make a beautiful yarn because it's all colors of golds and browns and creamy tones. So this color, all the colors in this Huenique were color names that went together. And this one was Cleopatra. And it's called the Self-Fringing Shawl. And when I post something on Facebook, one of my customers from out of town posted, yeah, she had made one of them with the Amitola Grand yarns. And I told her I liked it so much, I had picked it as one of my favorites. So it was a fun project, side to side. Maybe fatigue, I don't know, because now I have it figured out. But you get down to 6 stitches and you bind off 2. And the way it was explained, I couldn't figure out what the writer of the pattern was saying. Because then you pull out the other 3 stitches and you can see, I think you can see, delineation between the 3 and the rest. And then you just pull them out and you get loopy fringes, which you can either leave loopy or you can cut. But I wasn't seeing clearly what the author of the pattern was telling me to do. And usually I will let it sit a day or 2, come back to it, and it's clear, but it wasn't. And I've been in a fibromyalgia flare. I'm not sleeping, I'm in pain, and I just figured it was all part of that. So on Ravelry, I did a message to someone who has made this and asked her how she did the ending. And she wrote back and said, you know, I don't give up on many projects, but this one I did. And she didn't say how she finished it then or if she made her own fringe, but here's what doubled me over. She said, maybe you can find a yarn shop in your area and they would agree to help you. Oh my goodness, that cracked me up. I wrote back and said, that would be me. I own a yarn shop. Oh my goodness. And so I posted that on Facebook under Creative View, thinking people are very stressed. It will make them laugh. And one lady, Sharon, hi Sharon, said that actually made me giggle. But half of the people wanted to know, well, what is the pattern? Okay, now you got me. What is the name of the pattern? Well, I am very good at figuring out patterns. Tell me the pattern. That wasn't the intent. That wasn't. And then I had to message each one separately and say that, but that's not what I wanted to say. Oh, I figured that out right away. Man, you must have been sleep. No, that is not what I wanted. I just wanted to make people laugh. So I haven't done my fringe yet. And hopefully by next podcast, I will have it fringed. But I fell in love with this yarn. Unfortunately, they are discontinuing it. It's a washable wool. It is so soft. And usually I get itchy, but no. So I ordered a bunch of it, but the Cleopatra color is out. So I had to order another color that is similar, but has more gold, more black. And on Ravelry, somebody made a chevron blanket with it, with 7 skein. Oh, I gotta do it. I gotta do it in that color. It was so neat. So the Self-Fringing Shawl. And one of my other projects was the Celtic Myth Shawl, which is again a free pattern. This is done with Carlton Merino Sport, and I think the yarn called for a sport weight. And this part just flows. I think that will unwrap once. This part just flows because it's just 3-inch, three garter stitch, your yarn over, and garter. And since I learned a different way of doing a yarn over, and I was showing somebody and they said, like, duh, you didn't know that? And I'm like, no. See, that's the problem with being on top. People think you know everything about everything, and they delight in, oh, I knew that. Well, I'm happy. I'm glad that you did. And I think I've shown it, but what you do is your 3 garter, and then instead of yarning over, you just pick up the stitch right there and put it on your needle and knit over it. I can't really show you on this row because this is the purl row. But I am ready now to do the big band of the Celtic Cable. And again, hopefully, but not promising, that will be finished. By our front door, I kept finding feathers. Now we do have a kitty that's outside, but he stays close to the house. If I take a walk with the dog, he goes with me. But all of our cats have always done that, but people feel like they need to tell me. So the other day, I was taking Marcus for a walk, and there was a young woman across the street taking a big dog for a walk. And she called over, hey, did you know there's a big cat following you? And yes, I do. That's my cat. Oh, he's so big. He is a big cat. I was looking to see if he's here, a high point, a seal. Oh, now I can't even think of the name. There's Marcus letting me know that he needs to come in. Come in, boy. Come in. After all the rain and the storms that we've had, now you open the door and there's there's my husband, beautiful leaves. Honey, if you want to shut that door, that would help. Just beautiful leaves of all colors all over the ground. But I kept finding these and wondering what they were. And as far as I know, he doesn't go after a lot of birds, and then there's some that just have the spots on one side. And isn't it great that you can just look something up? So what I found out is these are woodpecker feathers. About 5 years ago, we started to get a woodpecker in our neighborhood. The first time I heard him was about 1:30 at night. And I thought that someone maybe worked the night shift and got home and was doing a project in their garage, like who hammers at this time of the morning? But it soon became clear it was a woodpecker. And then he ended up in the tree right outside our 1 bedroom. And at times I could see him and I would get the binoculars out, but I haven't seen him for a while. And usually if you get one, you will get more. So I am almost finished is it Pinewood's shawl. Again, like the Celtic myth, you start out and most of it is just the same pattern as Celtic myth until you get down to the bottom. And now you are ready to do the pattern. And it's like little trees. Hopefully when I finish it, maybe I can show it on a dark backdrop. Also, having variegated yarn makes it a little more difficult. But another thing that's almost finished. Okay, and let's see what else. I will get to the crocheting. I have done the May Queen scarf or shawl before by Adrienne Lashley. This is Rae Lace Merino in blues and browns. On camera, blues don't show up like they should, but I have one of these done in a solid color. It's a lot of trebles, which is fun because often you don't get to do trebles. What I was thinking is that I thought it should have been getting wider, and I don't want to say that fibromyalgia is my reason for all my failures, but not getting sleep, you have something called fiber fog, and you don't pick up mistakes. And so I just kind of kept on. When I got to the end, and you start rows of a lacy ending, and the pattern told you that you were supposed to have 19 of these clusters, and I'm counting 9. I decided, though, to let it be what it is. And at the beginning of the pattern, she shows you about 12 different ways that you can wrap a boomerang shawl. Boomerang shawl is wide at one end and thin at the other. And because I was at the end of my skein, I was happy just to do the edging like that. I'll block it. It could just be a simple scarf. You could even just tie that end there and let it flare down. But one of the ways I like to do is put the thin end around your neck and then wrap it. And of course, if you do it right, this end comes down and you get to see all of that pretty pattern. That is pretty. How am I doing? Not saying the S-O word, I hope. I'd like to hear from you. We're a small podcast and I don't know who is listening. So please leave a comment. For a while, I thought that maybe my comments were turned off, and that's why I wasn't hearing from anybody, but the comments are turned on. I like this yarn. It is called Fair Isle. It's a Euro yarn or Your Baby yarn, and I'm just following a pattern for socks, for worsted weight socks. Of course, it's going very quickly, and that's my color. And so, there it is. I should have you do that thing where you should do a live and have you do something every time I say that. A woman called the shop the other day at close time and said, I didn't know her. She said, with the whole COVID thing, I am knitting up my stash. And I have a question about working in the end of this yarn. And the yarn, it has been discontinued for quite a while. It was called Taki Ripple. And I actually have some, 2 skeins of yellow and a little bit of blue, but the yarn knits up really neat. It has these little, almost like ovals. And I've seen patterns where it looks really neat. She was surprised that I had any, but just with any project, you're just going to have to work it in the best you can. I like bling yarns. You just have to find the right thing to do with them. So I think I forgot my pattern book to bring it down, but we had that experience that I told you about. This is another funky yarn that crochets up just like this. Of course, if you drop your stitch It is very difficult to find it. And I told you on the podcast about how we took a little picnic out to what we call the water dam, and there was a big bird in the distance, and I argued with our friend that it was a hawk, and he said, no, it's an eagle, and he was right, and I felt bad about being a know-it-all, and it turns out there is an eagle nest out there, and the eagle went across to a little island, and the grandkids were trying to find it in the binoculars. But then this eagle came right by our picnic table and showed himself to us. So my grandson Tobin is in first grade, and I noticed one day he brought over a little polar bear stuffed animal. And I thought he was past the stuffed animal stage, and he was very careful that he didn't want to forget it when he went home. So I asked him, do you still, love, oh, Grandma, I can't sleep without my polar bear. Well, did someone special give him to you? Well, he nodded, but I could tell he wasn't really sure, but that's his bedtime buddy. And so I said, if I crocheted you a eagle to remind you of our time out at the water dam, oh, Grandma, I would love it. I would love it. And that's not the way Tobin usually talks. So I didn't want to disappoint him by saying I was going to do it and then not do it. So before I left the shop on Saturday, and I didn't want to do it with just regular yarns, I started looking for things that would make the eagle look like he really had feathers. So this is just your typical polyester yarn called Over. If you need to do it with another yarn, this is Cascade Cherub DK, so it wouldn't add a lot of weight. I was also looking at yarns like this, which is a cotton wavy yarn. And then for his claws, if you have ever seen a picture of an eagle's talons, oh, they're massive. I was looking at golds or yellow, or what did I want? This yarn was a yarn that was out years ago, and it just sat in the shop. Some were multicolored and so forth. And let me see if I can find my eagle's head. I might have forgotten to bring it down. Well, that would be a big disappointment. But as I'm cleaning up, I'll keep looking. Holly, who comes into the shop, got invited to do a charity where this woman pledged, a couple hundred of the bath, what would you call them? Like the bath spongy things to put your soap on. This is Mary Maxim Scrub It. But I told her in the past that when I made that pattern out of cotton yarns, and I think I shared this on a podcast, is they just didn't want to dry. So you used it in the shower and they were sopping wet, and a day later they're still damp, and it just wasn't nice. But I found this one that I had started. Maybe I dropped it doing it for that reason. But use a lot of double crochets, a lot of increases, so it keeps ruffling. So maybe I'll just finish it up and use it as a cleaning scrubby, maybe. So we talked about Amitola Grande, using that for the self-fringing scarf. Several months ago, I did this pattern with the Amitola Grande in a different color. I think this is the birthday cake color. This is a pattern, I'm going to say Susan Ashcroft, but I might be wrong. It's a fun pattern to do. And so I'm doing one in the birthday cake. You can do it just as a plain scarf, or you can do a provisional cast on so you don't have the waves, so you can connect it. But I like Amitola, and it's a yarn that has continued to thrive, and they bring out new colors. And oh, here goes another feather from the woodpecker. And here was another one I found. They're all just a little bit different, so I'll save them. I used to have a patient that used to paint on bird feathers, and he would paint all turkeys and elk and all kind of little things. Back to the shawl along. This is Touchstone by Laura Aylor, done in a yarn which is now discontinued called Tokonatsu, Noro Tokonatsu. There's the green, but the green has, you can't see it, flecks of purple. The purple has flecks of gold. And then I use a different yarn. I think it was a Rucania yarn. And there it is. I had it hanging over the glider in the back porch. My husband usually doesn't say much, and he said, "Oh, I love that. That is one of the prettiest things that you have ever done." Really? Yes, I love it. So, and then when you get done something, you start thinking about all the different possibilities you could have done. Like, what if this would have been pink, bringing out that? What if it would have been light purple? And of course, with the yarn being discontinued, you don't have a lot of choices. Let me see. This was also one, when you like a pattern, you just want to do another one. This is Katia Darling. It's a fingering weight, and I'm already loving it. Love the colors. And it's going to be smaller than that one because that is worsted weight yarn. This is fingering weight, or I can just keep knitting more to get it bigger. It has like blue purples, grays, turquoise, and that is definitely a project that I'm gonna love doing. And we talked about Dangling Conversation. I think I have a couple of those going, which starts out like this. Of course, it will uncurl. This is a yarn called Broadband, because if you make socks, you get big, broad stripes. But I never really liked it as socks. They have a lot of interesting coloring names like Martha's Vineyard and names like that. And I love the semi-tonal colorways. And that is that. We talked about the Mindless Scarf, which I showed last time. And a lady came in, she wants to start crocheting classes, and she is going to start with the Mindless Scarf. Some people come in to do a class and maybe they just want to learn the basics. They just want to practice making chains. They want to practice holding their yarn, getting attention. And then maybe going on to single crochet, but other people need to have a project. They need to carry something away, and it could just be a little headband. So this is not the Mindless Scarf, but this is, it might be Canyon Ranch, I don't know, but it's 4 doubles, I think chain 2, 4 doubles, and then like 2 single crochets, and then the next row you do what's called the V-stitch, double crochet, chain 2, V-stitch, and then a single. So I like it. And this is the Amitola Grande in a different color. And this just goes pretty easy. You can just, when colors change, it really keeps your interest. You just want to keep going. Oh, wait till this color changes. Oh, wait until, just let me get the yellow finished, and so forth. I also finished the Cairns cowl. We had the Cairns yarn. Let me see here if I can, yeah, here it is. I told you I have a bunch of things. This has to be one of the most successful projects in our store as far as samples that sell yarn. So Cairns is a flat cotton yarn with a stripe of a different color running down the middle. And you buy 2 colors and you do 1 row. It's a single crochet chain 1. It's a free pattern of 1 color, and then you pick up the other color, color B, and then color A, color B. And it's really gratifying to work on it. My initial chains, which they always tell you do it loose, kind of got too loose. So I might take one of the yarns that are left and just tighten it up. And I have seen some beautiful, beautiful projects come through the store. I wish that the vibrancy of the colors showed up, which they don't. Like the pink has a really bright green running through it and so forth. I was thinking that because you can double this, especially on a snowy day going out, that I would take a solid color and go around the outside and maybe a different solid color along the inside. And I thought that that would really show up. So I had like a hottish pink and a lime green. The problem was it made these colors look dull and uninviting. And I had showed it to my husband and he like shook his head. No, maybe if it was a black or a dull color, but so I took that all out and here it is. It does kind of look weird that the light pink ended there right on a dark, but again, I could put another row around it. It is so fun to see people come in with the color because they're all different and there's so many combinations that you can choose from to do it. So that will go off to the shop along with the Cairns scarf. What I'm hoping is that I find the eagle head, and I'm almost finished the Acorn Hat, which is out of one of the Cascade Quick Knits books. So I think I'll just set my mind to finishing this tonight. It is really cute. And this is the time of year to get these things done. This is a Crocheted Hat. It's going to be a set. So I right away did about 8 of the foots for the slippers. I use a Cherub Aran variegated yarn along with a solid. This is my book, Boots and Hats. It really is a cute book and it's not very expensive at all. You can make the booties. You can make all kind of cute little so-called boots. little fringes. I mean, it's just really cute. I've had this book in the shop and nobody seems to be buying it, and I can't figure out why. So I decided that I would make up some of the sets. Look at those slippers. Aren't they so cute? And there's the hat. Little sneaker high tops. And the book sells for just $5.99. And one thing as a shop owner that you have to be careful about is you do something like this and then all of suddenly the book is not available anymore. This is just a hat that I did just using tweedy stripes, and yeah, it looks cute when you put it on. Some things look more attractive just off your head, but they don't look that great on. And then some things don't look that great done, but they look good on. And I kind of find it strange, the trend in hats, that some now had a pattern sitting here. Some now have 4 points, and some just kind of slouch, strange, and I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm sure our head isn't all just like a bowling ball, but still it's, to me, seems kind of strange. I've been reading a couple books. We saw a movie. If I already talked about this, then excuse me, because I was telling you about a grandmother, an older woman at Vacation Bible School, who was sitting in the back, and she was reading like middle school age books to see if they really are appropriate in a Christian library. And I think if you heard me say that, she said, I am concerned about situational ethics, that the books are kind of selling kids the idea that it's okay to sin if the situation arises. So kind of like the idea of stealing bread because you don't have food, or lying to protect another kid or whatever. And, we know that God doesn't honor lying and so forth. And so Paul and I were watching a movie called, I think it's called I Found a Friend. Cute movie. It is disturbing that almost all these movies, the children's parents have died or a parent has died, but this boy, who's a very likable, cute kid, gets sent to live with his uncle and aunt because his parents died. And his uncle didn't get along with his father. They were brothers. And this spills over into his relationship with this boy. The boy and his father were going to do racing, all the little cars that kids make and race, or you can make the big carts, I want go-kart. But his uncle said no. His uncle didn't like that sport. So the child lies and says he's doing baseball after school. John Snyder plays a good role in the movie, and I like John Snyder from the Dukes of Hazzard, and he plays this recluse that everybody avoids, and they tell big, tall, ugly tales about him, and he becomes this boy's friend. It is worth watching. Watch it, enjoy it. I'll just warn you, though, that the lie the boys has told all becomes justified, even by all the adults, because of the situation. And that's what we're teaching our kids. So, there you go. There's that word. Last but not least, there's a yarn is Velour. And it's very soft. When it came out, it was $20, which was a lot for a ball of yarn. But once you are introduced to it, it kind of sticks in your mind. All that velour, super soft. So, there it is again, a cowl. Oh, see, it's slippery soft. To go around the neck, I'm going to have to block this before I show it to you again, because it's roughly, because there's a lot of double crochets in it, but it's going to be just a nice little, you could almost wear your sweater over it. I like the pattern. I don't remember where I got it or if I made it up, because when you get to that point, you don't want to steal somebody's pattern by saying you made it up, but you don't remember. Very simple, soft around your neck. And I heard someone say last week, about a different project, well, I wish I knew, maybe I can look for the pattern. And I said to her, well, you can figure it out. Yeah. And just go by and look. Okay, there's a single, there are chains. I mean, challenge yourself a little bit. And then I also started a crocheted hat. The one problem being that it's so sleek and soft that I don't know if it's going to be stiff enough to, stay on your head. I'm going to have to do some kind of rows of slip stitch or single crochet to get it to do that. So those are two projects that I hope to finish off. And as I'm putting these things away, I am hoping to find the eagle head. We have a bookstore that sells books for $1. I got this. It's about often in life we feel beat down, life has lost its joy, and we want to give up. But then there's a light. The scripture says that God lights my candle. Isn't that beautiful? It also says that God came to give you life and life abundantly, full life, joyful life. Sometimes I think we get so despaired by what's going around us that we forget God has overflowed our cup. We have so much to be grateful for. This was the series of books that I read one out of order, and my husband went to the library and found me one about this island town called Heavenly Daze, Daze. And it was definitely a worthwhile. I have to figure out how to get the other two in the series. Written by two Christian authors, Lori Copeland and Angela Hunt. And as do books about towns go, each book tends to focus on a different character. And the Bible verse they give in the beginning is 2 people can accomplish more than twice as much as one. They get a better return for their labor. I think it goes on to say, if one falls, who will help him up, All right, let's see if this eagle head is to be found. I remember picking him up upstairs off the bed and say, oh, I need him for my podcast. And he is so very cute. But did I actually bring him down to where I'm podcasting? So you're going to think too that he is so cute, made out of this with the big eyes. And it may be one of these things that as soon as I turn off the camera, it's going to be, oh, there he is. I'll end with showing you some cross stitch. It is a shame in our culture that we tend to discount handmade things. And this is another book I'm reading. It's accounts of a volunteer EMT worker who responds to all these calls. and has seen the worst of worst. One story is about an elderly lady whose family didn't think she was safe home alone. So she got put into a retirement home, and she got up one night and wanted to get some milk and graham crackers, and she missed her home, and she opened the door, which put her out into the fire escape. Now, it was the cold of winter, and once the door closed, it wouldn't open up, and she realized she was on a fire escape, and then she stepped on ice and went the whole way down, and she kept screaming for help, and no one heard her. And then she also tells stories about other elderly people who the system failed them. They were there to be helped, to be watched. And she ended up by saying, children and the elderly are so vulnerable. And imagine as you grow old, the things that you spent so much time on are just thrown away. Or they end up at a thrift shop for like 25 cents. This was one of the things I found for, I think it was 50 cents. How excellent is thy loving kindness of God. And this, isn't that so cute? And I'm assuming that the outside was to be cross-stitched. And again, this was just a woman who died. Her brother brought me piles of things and said, I could have brought you a lot more, but her children threw it all away. She was a cross-stitcher. This is finished. It was just never matted and framed. And then there were some little things, and we know in cross stitch, these little things can take several hours. A little owl. And then she must have tried beading. That's all little beads. And I think I have some more of her things that I can show you. I just didn't have them handy. So the thought of her beautiful things that she spent hundreds of hours on, just thrown in a dumpster. But at least some of the things were rescued. So I don't see the eagle head. I'm going to do one walk around the table and then say, well, I did not bring him down. So let me just do a quick look. At least if we don't have him, we will see him the next time. And I'm not seeing him. I feel really bad, but I guess I forgot him. The very last thing to show you is when my husband and I went and we found all these books for $1. The Color Atlas of Life Before Birth. God tells us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, that he knit us together in our mother's womb. When I did anatomy as a first-year medical student, they had mayonnaise jars with fully formed babies in them that the mother had a miscarriage. This is a baby right here at 13 weeks. When they tell mothers, when they go for counseling, that, oh, it's just a blob. It won't feel anything. It's not a baby. 13 weeks. Everything is there. And he is fearfully and wonderfully made as you were in your mother's womb. That's a very amazing book. Pictures all throughout. It takes you week by week. It shows you all the body organs, everything. It's just incredible. You know, it's just absolutely incredible. And now when they have the 3D ultrasounds and people can actually see what their baby is doing. Oh, I'm going to leave you there. God bless all of you. Next time I'll be back with my eagle's head. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know God loves you. I love you too. Please leave a comment and keep that smile. Shine, baby, shine. You're a child of the King. Bye-bye.